All right, everyone. So Derek Dewsbury here, Razor Rock Fishing. Today we're going to go over some of the basics, equipment, and how to start pitching. You can land them big ones. Stay tuned. So today we're going to talk about pitching. All right, I'm sorry, I meant to say flipping, but pitching. All right. So the pitching technique is extremely valuable to learn because you're going to be able to put that lure on a dime whenever you need to, and you're going to be able to get it under places or maybe even over places if it's a down log that other people are not going to try because they, one, don't know how to do this technique, or two, they don't have the confidence that they can get their bait in there, and three, they might not have the correct equipment to do so. They're all three a factor, and they're all three going to make you a better angler in the long run to land those big fish. So let's talk about equipment. So I'm not going to get into particulars about brands. I'm just going to talk to you about the basics to get started. Now, when you're practicing the pitching technique, if you do not have this exact equipment, don't worry about it. All right. The point is that you get out there and you learn the technique, you get proficient at it, and then maybe once you saved up enough money, or you can actually go out and get the correct equipment, you've already got that confidence that you're going to be able to use it correctly and efficiently, and then you're going to be able to go out there and use that new stuff. Okay. So reel, bait caster. This is a left-handed reel, but you can also get the right-handed. I've always done left-handed for the longest time, just because when my bait hits the water, I want full control over my retrieve. But I know that there's a lot of people that switch. It doesn't matter. You can do that, okay? But the bait caster, usually a 7.2, 7.3 to 1, if you can. This one particularly is a 6.3 to 1. It works great because it's got a lot of power, but it's not quite as fast as I would like it to be. So I'm actually going to go ahead and get another one that's a little bit faster for this specific technique. But like I'm just practicing, so you know the reel doesn't really mean too much to me when I'm practicing. I'm in Alaska, so there's not bass in this water anyway. I can't even catch anything. So I'm just out here getting better at it. Line is going to be 50 to 65 pound braid. Again, doesn't have to be right away. If you've got 10-pound mono on a reel, go pitch with it in your backyard, dude. So, but eventually you're going in places that are nasty. Big fish are going to be in there. You want a little bit of extra line capacity as far as strength. So go to the 50 or the 65 pound. Rod, kind of the best all around rod until you get into it. There's a lot that you can get into as far as like action and the length, the taper, all that crap. So, but initially, if you can get a 7-foot, maybe a 7.2 or a 7.3, medium heavy, fast action rod, you're gonna be able to flip anything from a quarter to 3/8 ounce, all the way up to 3/4, maybe even an ounce if you have to. So it's a great all-around rod. That's what I'm using here. It's got a good tip on it. Good tip allows you to be able to swing that bait and get it into places accurately and with a low trajectory, okay? Some dudes be flipping with a daggum broomstick, and that's cool. You're gonna have that power to, you know, fight out whatever you got in the spot, but it also takes a little bit more practice and a little bit extra attention to get that bait where you need it to. So I like a little extra tip, and then if I ever do need to do a nice little roll cast, I've got that tip where I can do so if I want to get to some place with the specific bait I'm using and it's just too far away for a pitch. All right, when you're starting out, I would do no less than a 1/2 ounce jig head. All right, so this is a skirt that I tied just so I can see it. I would probably never fish with this unless I was maybe doing some northern pike action, but as you can see, it's tore up, man. It probably doesn't even weigh a 1/2 ounce anymore because it's been beaten on the concrete for so long. I actually even cut the hook off, the tip of the hook, just so I can leave it in my garage and not have to worry about my daughter getting into it. So it's just a bad jig that I had laying around, but it makes a great practice jig. So for a real setup before we start getting into how to do it, you want to, so initially when you're casting, you want to be able to drop your lure, all right? So where the lure is going to stop when it hits the ground. When you're pitching, you want it a little bit faster, okay? It's going to allow you to get to that low trajectory, and it's also going to allow you to just swing it easier rather than so hard. If you have too much line or spool pressure on your line, when you go to do your flip and the line doesn't go out freely, your lure is just going to go straight up and it's going to come back at you, or it's just going to go straight down and it's, you know, like a whip effect. So you do want a little bit extra give on your spool so the line comes out cleanly and smoothly. When you're first starting out, what you can do to help you with this, all right, before you get the pitching technique down, cast, drop and walk, whatever you got to do, but get some line out, okay? Pull a little bit extra, and what you can do, because this is a full spool and braid ain't cheap, we all know this, put your piece of electrical tape right here and wrap it all the way around the spool, 360 degrees back on itself, all right? Tighten your line or whatever and bring it in. Okay, so what that's going to do, you don't necessarily want to fish with that. You can, I mean, you're more than welcome to if you pull enough line off. However, what it's going to do is if you're out there pitching, and let's say the lure hits the water or the ground that you're practicing on a little too fast, a lot of times when you're first getting out, if you have too much slack out, like let's say this much, and you try to go do it, your lure is going to hit the ground right in front of you before it actually gets up and over, and it's going to cause your line to spool. With that tape on there, it's gonna, if it does backlash, you're only backlashing maybe 20-30 yards of line, and you don't have to pick or dig or pull out your whole entire spool. It's going to make it a lot less frustrating, and you're going to actually want to do it more. And then as you get better at it, you can take the electrical tape off so that you have that freedom to make a little bit, you know, maybe longer casts, or use it as a frog and pull, or, you know, whatever, and switch back and forth between pitching and casting. So, really readjust the camera real quick so you can see what I'm doing, and then I'll get right back to you. All right, so you can practice this technique anywhere except for maybe indoors because you don't have high enough ceilings. Go into your backyard. Tis the season. If you notice, the leaves are changing and stuff. The dandelions are starting to turn white and get the, you know, little fluff balls on them or whatever. I'll actually go out in my backyard and I'll just pitch and try to knock the little fluff balls off the dandelions. It's great practice because you're changing your distance and your, you know, point of pitching every single time, so you're getting different practice rather than just trying to flip in a coffee cup at all times. After my daughters played in the backyard, if you have kids, you know what I mean, it's trashed, toys everywhere. I'll take advantage of that and just go back and stand in the corner of the backyard there, and I'll just practice pitching dollar toys before I pick them up. Again, it's just different things. You don't have to have targets that are, you know, circles or whatever, or a coffee cup. Yeah, they're great. They're fun to practice to get it into, but you don't need that. Go into your driveway, practice hitting the corners of the cracks, okay? All I'm getting at is trying to do this. When I'm out here, I'm trying to hit a lily pad. You know, when I'm actually pitching, trying to catch fish, I'm not necessarily going to land it on the lily pad, but maybe next to it. Maybe there's an opening in some lily pads. I want to drop it in there. The lily pad is my target right now. So, to start, you want the lure the same distance to the reel, okay? That gives you this line. That's going to allow you to pendulum it really good, okay? So, you're going to take off your spool by pushing your button in and just hold it with your thumb. Okay? Well, you're going to figure out your own technique, so you don't necessarily have to, you know, do your wrist or anything exactly like I do. But I'm just trying to get you guys to understand the basics, okay? So you're gonna, if you're right-handed, or excuse me, left-handed, and you're casting with your right hand, it's all in the wrist, okay? So you bring your lure back by your hip, okay? Kind of just above your knee. Just let your arm hang freely, okay? We're not trying to work out or nothing. And then as you're bringing your rod forward, you're gonna let go of the jig, okay? Keep your eye where you want that to go, okay? If you take your eye off, it's probably gonna go somewhere else, or it's gonna be close but not exactly where you want it to go, okay? If you keep your eye on, you're smart enough and your body's smart enough to put the lure in that trajectory. Next, you just have to figure out the momentum to get it to that point, depending on distance, okay? Trust your eyes. Your body will take care of the rest as far as the line, and then it's the practice part as far as how far to go out or how close to bring it in without backlashing, okay? So for me, my target is this patch of lily pads here. Boom, landed on it, okay? Granted, I'm teaching you guys how to do this because I already know how to do it, but it's gonna be frustrating, okay? You want your rod tip going directly at that point, okay? And once you let go of the lure as it's on its way, you can kind of manipulate where it's going in the air. If it's tracking a tad bit right, go ahead and kind of just, throw your rod tip over to the left a little bit. Help it carry over, okay? I mean, you're not gonna get huge changes, but you can get those little bit changes to help you. So, just drop it in, okay? If you go too high, you end up, you really have to kind of extend your right arm. I don't know if you saw me had to do that because I'm having to reach up to hold it, right? That's just really awkward and not necessary, okay? If you're too long, let's say you bring it up and you're just too lazy to reel it up another time because it is the wrong one, then when you do it, I don't know if you see that right there, the lure is gonna hit the ground or the water before you want it to. It's gonna cause some problems, backlash, okay? So that's why this is important. Maybe a hand's length up or down, you'll be okay from the reel with the lure, but you really want it in that bread basket, okay? And then just practice flipping, man. Like I said, coffee cups, flowers, eventually you'll get it to where as soon as you bring it up, you'll know when to stop reeling and it'll be perfect. Practice getting it low to the water so that you can have those real easy and gentle entrances into the water so you don't spook fish. And then sometimes, you know what? Once you get good at it, sometimes you'll want it to go really high. Now, why would you want that? Let's say you're punching mats, okay, or matted grass with like a big 1.5 ounce weight. You still want the accuracy somewhat, but you're gonna want to, boom, you're gonna want to be able to punch right through there. And the other thing is, if you're going for that reaction strike, what'll happen is if you keep a tight line, it's like, let's say you're pointing your rod, you hit your spot, but you stop it right there. What's gonna happen is, because the lure doesn't have any more line, it's gonna create a pendulum effect. And that lure, as it's falling, depending on the depth of the water, if it's in 1 foot of water, obviously not a big deal, but if you're flipping 3+ feet of water, that lure is gonna start to travel back towards you and it's gonna get out of the strike zone, okay? So especially if you're doing vertical targets like a boat dock or a cypress tree, what you wanna do after you get that accuracy part down, or while you're still practicing, as it's going out, you want to raise your rod tip, okay? Now, if you notice, it actually kind of worked out because it landed on the lily pad and stayed up. I've got a lot of slack. So what that allows me to do is, with that rod tip down, or up, excuse me, as I finish, as that lure is falling, I'll drop my rod tip too, and then now I can use my reel as the tensioning device as far as picking up my line slack. And with that slack, it's going to allow the lure to fall straight down, okay? You're smart enough to know about where the fish should be, whether they're there or not, who knows, but you know where it should be. Letting that lure fall straight down is gonna get that reaction strike, or it's gonna allow him to go down and look at it, maybe take a second peek at it that he might not have if it would have swung back to you on the boat dock, whatever. So, and then another precursor to the lifting the rod high, when we talk about skipping under docks or skipping under limbs, that also becomes very important, because when you raise your rod tip high, you're also trying to keep your lure on top of the water as long as possible, while still giving that slack for it to slide up under the boat dock as far as you can. So practice that, okay? It's really fun. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's good to do in the winter. Yeah, it might be cold, but go out for 5-10 minutes, dude. Like, get your hands nice and warm from watching football on Sunday. Go outside, flip 5-10 minutes, come inside. Not a big deal, but it's gonna keep you fresh throughout the off season if you're in a place like that. My military brothers and sisters, if you're in Alaska and you just can't straight up fish for bass, I mean, like, this is what I'm doing right now. I just brought the family out, kids running around, you've probably heard her, having a great time. So practice it, get good at it. It's gonna make you a better fisherman.